And welcome back to the Black Male Community Council. Boots on the ground, black man standing. I'm like, well, we just had a great interview with the president and CEO of the Black Male Community Council, Stanley Crawford. And the second half of our program is going to be even more dynamic, or just as dynamic, because I got my brother from another mother sitting right here in the studio, my main man, Ron Waters, a former state representative, and a brother that has his awareness from a political perspective, his awareness in terms of what happens in the community. I don't think anybody else could be able to share that better from any perspective than Brother Ron Waters. Hey, Ron.
Hi. Good day seeing you, Kofi Asante. As always, my brother from another mother.
My brother from another mother.
I appreciate your kind words, and I hope that I live up to those words. Okay.
Me too, because this thing costs money. No, but, no, but look, Ron, I'm so happy that you're here to be interviewed. I say this, I've been saying this in every interview in terms of the Black Male Community Council. What we are doing is videoing the men that belong to the Black Male Community Council, that we know that your integrity, your consciousness, your commitment, not just to the Black Male Community Council, but to the African American community within itself, is very genuine. Mm-hmm. And I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. There's a brother named Haki Marbuti. His name is Don L. Lee. He wrote this book. He's from the '60s Revolution, right, out of Chicago. And part of the book, there was a statement in that book. He said, "There'll be men that will come that will not be compromised. Mm-hmm. There'll be men that will come that will have integrity. There'll be men that will come that will tell the truth, regardless of what the circumstances are."
Exactly.
Right. And when I think about you, Ron, and knowing some of your story, I believe that in you. Okay. And that's very real for me.
Sure.
And I think that God has put together, in terms of the men that belong to the Black Male Community Council, those men that will not be compromised in a time where compromise is the norm.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly right. Yeah.
and you're a family man. You're a dedicated Muslim. I see you everywhere. So I really would like you to be able to tell our audience about Ron, and some of your background that has led you on the path that you are right now.
So thank you again, Kofi, for this opportunity to tell my story, and also to talk about the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia and the great leadership that it has. I'm just so proud that I was asked, and it was shared with me, that the vision of the of this organization that I'm so proud to be a member of. And as you know, Kofi, I remember we've been on missions before, so this is not our first our first rodeo. Let's just say this. This is not our first rodeo. So we'd have been on different missions before, and I want to say likewise to you. All the accolades you gave to me, the same goes to you too.
Thank
you.
you.
Have your own story, your own history, your own receipts that you about the good things that you have done. Yeah. And there was a time when I was looking with amazement with what you was doing with the fatherhood program, and I was like, my goodness, man, who does he know?
God.
You knew God, and you believed in yourself, and part of what is so I believe so important for opportunities to come to all of us is that we should do those things. We should have those things in place. Believe in God and trust in God. And also believe that you can do. And don't you be the first one to tell yourself no. Because that's what happens all too many times. We don't believe we could accomplish something, so we hold ourselves back, and rather than putting our trust in God and saying, why not me?
That's right.
Okay, why not me? And in our faith, we had this saying, which of the favors of Allah will you deny? Because we're not being left out of the equation. Sometimes we look and think of how other people are blessed. but they live and enjoy the same sun that we enjoy. They walk in the same earth that we're walking on, and they're breathing the same air. It's depending on where you are, of course, with the pollution issue. But pretty much, you get the idea.
Sure.
But they grasp an opportunity because they believe it's their opportunity. Sometimes we deny our own self an opportunity, and I'm going to tell you something. I always point back to the Million Man March as a place I went to that I heard some and I saw something there that I never thought I would ever see. To see those many black men come together and in a unified front to hear a message or messages, because there were several speakers that spoke at that event, and to have the patience and the tolerance and the discipline that we never witnessed this before.
Okay.
So to me, I'm looking at something that remind me of like a miracle. Man, how you get all these people together? I remember the Bloods and the Crips were there, who had their notorious reputations from L.A. and all, and I saw all these other people. I saw people that traveled from out of the country to be there. And but I saw how we embrace each other, and that gave me hope. That gave me hope. And I'm looking at, when I look at, and I heard the message that came out about go back to where you live and do something.
Do something.
Go back and do something. I heard it loud and clear. And when I came back, I was determined that I was going to do something for wherever I was. I want to find something. If I got to just pick up a couple of rocks, or if I got to not to use them violently, but if I could build something with those rocks,
I hear you.
I will do it. So this is an example of I'm gonna do something, and I thought that I would start with young people.
Okay.
Because all too often, so many people give up on young people, and so many of those young people that I was working with back then, they're grown up, they're adults now, they are doing the right thing.
That's right.
And they have families of their own. They went to school, they graduated from high school, went to college, and then I get phone calls from them sometimes telling me, "Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you, Mr. Ryan." And I didn't even realize the trauma that they was going through. They share some of that stuff now, but I wasn't trying to judge them. I met them where they were, and after doing that kind of work, other people that were in positions of power looked at me when an opportunity. There you go again. When an opportunity came around, and they were looking for somebody to put in key positions, they saw something in me that made them tap me for the assignment. Okay. Like when I became a state representative, or was asked to be a state representative. That's when I became one. When I was asked to be a candidate to run for state representative, I'm like, me? I kind of felt like Moses when he was asked to go out and do his work. It kind of reminded me of that.
Talking to the bush.
Yeah. I was like, you talking about me? You know, because to tell you the truth, I had my own feelings about politicians and stuff like that. I did. I mean, to be honest. And but I said, I don't know if I could get elected. You know, it was something in me that made other people believe you're electable. Okay. So rather than to turn down an opportunity or now have a missed opportunity, and I got on the phone and I called my uncle. My father had passed away in '96, and so I didn't have him to talk to, but I have an uncle that was like a father figure for me too. And I called him up. He's a bishop in the church, very, very respected person, and I trusted what he would tell me, and we talked for a good hour, and I was like, should I? And we bounced around because he wasn't trying to tell me what to do, but he explored. Let's think about this. And out of that, he said, "Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and try? You never know. You might get elected." That's right. You know. I went ahead and I tried, and I got elected. All right, and I got elected 9 times, okay? I hear you know, so because state reps, that's a tough job. You got to run every 2 years.
Every 2 years,
so you're always running. But but I got elected, and it just opened up other doors. It put me on a platform that I never would have been on had I not took a chance on myself.
Now, I want to go back to something you said, particularly as it relates to the Million Man March. And this is something that I pray for all the time, every day, in terms of the upliftment of our self-esteem. Right? Because collectively, if you think about post-traumatic slave syndrome, right, and you just talked about how sometimes we cut our nose off to spite our face because we don't think we deserve
That's right.
opportunity. We don't
That's
deserve
right.
chance. And to me, that's a result of low self-esteem. Right? It's a result of not being able to understand ourselves from a cultural perspective and how great we really are. Right? So, and I saw the Million Man March as a broad perspective in terms of infusing a situation that could uplift our self-esteem, that could take us out of the muck of mire of ignorance that is now causing us to kill each other. It's now causing us to cheat on each other. It causes us to lie to each other for no good reason. You know, and my prayer is that we can be able to uplift ourselves out of that, so that we can begin to see our greatness again. And then you mentioned about the political, our political arena, in terms of our politicians, and you being all up in the mix of that, right? Right. Particularly in terms of the black community, the black and brown community. What is your sense in terms of the leadership that we have now, and let's just say in Philadelphia?
So the leadership is who we vote for, because we call our elected officials leaders. But of course, you could be a religious person and be a leader too. But a lot of times when a person is elected, it's amazing how that works. All my life, I was living and walking and enjoying my life and trying to get along with everybody, but I never got the term honorable until I got elected. And then it was like automatically, you get elected, you become the honorable Ron Waters. I'm like, wow, really? Okay. I just didn't feel honorable, but to have other people call you that, people of all colors, of all races, and even the media and everybody else, that becomes who you are. But at the end of the day, did you earn that title, not just by getting elected, but did you earn that title by service? So we have to, as elected officials, as voters, realize that we have an obligation that the person gets elected to. They have to come back, because I mean, so many positions around here don't have term limits. There's only a couple of them that do, and that's the mayor and the governor. But the Congress people, the state reps, the state senators, the council people, I mean, all those elected positions don't have term limits. Even your committee person, they don't have term limits. So we have to make sure that we hold our leadership accountable so that we have good leadership. Because if we don't hold them accountable, if we don't have a mission for them, then we elect people and send them, and then we fold our hands and say, let's see what they're going to do. No, it ain't what they're going to do. It's what we want them to do. I'm a true believer that at the end of the election, it ain't who won. It ain't that Ronald Waters win or that somebody else win. It's that the community win. And when we start voting in our interest, it starts saying that we win. So when those 2 years roll around, I feel pretty good about our chances. Okay. I feel pretty good about our leader. Okay. And so I'm going to give them a chance to continue on that path of representing me, wherever they are, if it's Harrisburg or Washington, D.C., or if it's in City Hall. So we have to hold those people accountable. That's a leadership we get.
Look at our community as being complacent.
And that's a sad part, because in other communities where they get, they're not complacent. The other places where they get, they vote. The other places where they get, they hold those elected officials accountable, and they vote with a unified voice. And they give that elected official their assignment.
Okay.
All right? Okay. So they know we hired you.
Okay, and we can fire you.
And we can fire you.
Okay.
Because it depends on if you're doing what we hired you to do. I tell people all the time, I used to work at different places. I don't want to mention them because I don't want to put them on blast.
Okay.
But I've worked at some places where I saw people that got hired to go, and then after they got hired, they wanted to do their own thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you get hired, and now you want to come in. No, the person who hired you to do an assignment that's going to benefit them and their company.
That's right.
Not you come in there and act like all right, and then you get mad because you can't do that, and then you quit.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Man, they tough. They ain't, in some cases, no, it ain't that they're tough. You misunderstood why you got hired.
Yeah, exactly.
You got hired to do a job that they had in place for you to do.
That's right.
And they thought you was qualified to do it, so they gave you a chance. The people who, they got to hold these elected officials to that same standard.
Uh-huh.
Don't make them some idol. Because I don't want to, I used to tell people, "Man, slow down.
Right.
Slow down." My same, that same uncle I told you about that went to, he did something one time when he first became a pastor of the Christian Hope Baptist Church. I don't know if I should have said the name or not, but my pastor, Uncle Boyce, not my pastor, but he's my uncle, Uncle Boyce. When he first became a pastor, he started noticing that people was giving him gifts all the time. You know what I mean? They kept giving him stuff. And he started saying, now, slow up now. Slow up. Because he knew that was going to lead on a path of expectations.
Okay, right, exactly.
All right?
Exactly.
And he knew his calling was from God.
Uh-huh.
And he's going to teach God's message
Not your message.
to his congregation.
Right, right.
And once you start allowing those other people to start influencing with their gifts and stuff, next thing you know, you'll start be preaching to the choir rather than preaching the message that God gave you.
That's right.
You're going to preach to the choir, but you're not going to preach to their expectations. You're going to preach to what God wants them to receive.
That's right.
Because sometimes they don't know. But and they get there, they start loving and say, yeah, that's right. Tell them. No, it ain't go. Don't let that message go over your head. That message applies to everybody who have ears.
That's it.
All right, so you're listening, and the pastor's ears are closer to the words coming out of his mouth than yours are.
That's right.
So it goes to him too.
That's right.
Or minister, or imam. No, I mean, so what I'm saying is that when he said that he had to slow his congregation down, because he did not want to be beholden to them.
No, exactly.
He wanted to be beholden to the assignment, and he said he was called by God to do that.
And I think that applies also in the political arena as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have put it any more better than you just did, in terms of holding people accountable, holding that integrity, that collective integrity, in a way that it benefits us and not to counterproduct whatever we think that we need.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you this question because I've asked all of the Black Male Community Council. How do you see the Black Male Community Council 5 years from now? What do you want for them? What do you want for us?
I'm glad you said it that way. What do I want? I want us to be a model of men stepping up to the plate. Men of all ages. I know a lot of us are like middle age or above.
Right, that's
you know
right.
what I mean? I know that. But we gotta be. I think that our children. When I was young, we had examples of men, okay, that we would look at. We had, for me, the Mr. Witherspoon and Mr. Jackson and Mr. Coleman's and Mr. Smith, and my uncles, Mr. Waters, and all. We had those examples in our community of people who took care of their family and was good neighbors and spoke to one another. I think that if we could set up an example for other people to see, what success could come from working together, what success looks like from working together, what respect looks like from watching how we talk to one another.
Wow.
All right, because I think that sometimes we get too many about we need to love each other. Love is an emotion, and I'm not against love. I don't want my wife to look at me think I'm saying something here. I'm not against love. I'm for love. But I think that love is not the first goal. I think respect is the first goal. And I think that because what good is love if the person loves you but don't respect you?
Don't respect, exactly.
All right, so I would much rather us try to figure out how we're going to get respect and dignity back in our community that we need to have in order for us to get respect from everybody else.
Amen.
We don't live in a world by ourselves.
No, we don't.
And we have to be more broad-minded in our thinking and realize that the reason why other people have what they have is because of what they do. And we cannot allow ourselves to be the Willie Lynch victims. I don't care if there was a Willie Lynch or not.
Good.
But that document people need to read it and look in the mirror after they read it
That's
and
right.
see does that document apply in your life or not.
That's right.
All right. So we need to start thinking about what is our responsibility. And if we as the Black Male Community Council, and we have done a magnificent job of that, of stepping up, even when we used to go out there and do the rallies and just walk through the community big and bold and proud. And I
That's
remember
right.
one night we had a little 8-year-old with us,
Right,
and I remember
right,
that night, and I had the mic at the
Right.
time. We was going through the movie, going through the motion, and saying and rallying people, and it was nice to hear how the people would come out and support us.
Right,
and they
right.
did that at the Million Man March as we got off our buses and started walking. The women was coming out, they was applauding
That's
us.
right,
You know,
that's right.
go ahead, because you know what they saw? They saw some black men, and they
Standing.
was trying to encourage us to do the right thing. Go there and prove to the naysayers that black people can work together.
That's right.
Black people can come together.
That's right.
And black people can come away from each other with an assignment and take that assignment and get something done. So if we, as a Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia, if we could be that beacon of light that everybody could look at, and I'm not saying there's not other ones too.
Right, sure.
But you know, we're not trying to get in anybody else's way. We want them to be successful too. I want the mayor to be successful at serving the city of
That's right.
Philadelphia.
That's
I
right.
want the state reps to be successful at serving the people in their district.
That's right.
I want the Congress to be successful at serving the people in their congressional district. And I want the same thing for the governor and everybody. I want them to be successful at serving us,
That's right.
not successful at special interests. I want them to be successful at serving us so that we could come up and start seeing the change that we think we want.
Wow.
We think we want to see things change, but the problem is, how much are you ready to do to make it happen?
Wow.
Like Barack Obama said, look in the change you're looking for is right in the mirror.
That's it.
You got to come up. You got to step up to the plate. This ain't a spectator's event.
That's right.
This is much bigger than being a spectator. You got to step up to the plate and find out, get in where you fit in, but not on the sideline. And you don't have to create an activity.
Right.
You could join something that exists.
Right.
And there's other actions going on out there. There's options for you. But if you want a great option, pick the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia.
Wow, Ron Waters. Hey, look, thank you, Ron, so much, man, for your statements and your energy and your spirit. And you always come correct, man. And that, I mean, that's been my experience with you. And we'll continue to have that experience with you. I mean, you know, I love you, brother.
I love you too.
Because you're my brother from another mother.
You're my brother from another mother. I love you and I respect you. Much respect and much love, my brother.
Thank you, thank you.
And kudos for our founder, Stanley Crawford. I just want to say that before we end. Kudos to Stanley Crawford. I know it was a tragedy that initiated initiated this thought.
Yes.
But his son's life will not be in vain.
Wow. It's a beautiful thing. Well, again, we thank you for taking your time out to listen to the Black Male Community Council, Boots on the Ground, Black Man Standing. We'll be back at you in a minute. Peace and blessings.